Okay. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and kick off the last session of the day. Before we dive into that, I want to say thank you to all of our participating partners so far. We've had some great sessions throughout the day. Very excited about what we've heard. If you want to dive in deeper to any of that, by all means, reach out uh, and reach out to the speakers, reach out to any of your account team. If you want to talk to one of our partners that you've heard from, reach out to them directly. Very, very excited about the content today and what comes tomorrow. Let me see. As we wrap up kind of the last session of the Cloud Advantage Virtual Summit, we're here today to really kind of showcase what is happening with OpenCloud. We've shown demos of OpenCloud. We've had a lot of good conversations, and I'll introduce myself in a second. But we're really excited about what the R&D team is bringing to market, what we're working through, and I've got a couple engineers that are going to provide demos of some of the nearer term items, or in the case of DAS, what's just launched. But before we dive into the demos, just quick introductions. So my name is Taylor Greiner. I'm the Director of Innovation here at US Signal. About 30 days into my role, so still very new. If you've worked with me in the past, it was as the Microsoft sales specialist. I've taken a different role, but it's a very exciting time at US Signal with the technology that we're rolling out. We've got exciting things. Again, we've got desktop as a service. We've got GPUs that are on the roadmap. We've got all kinds of containers, as you just heard in the last session. Really exciting things that we're working on, not just in OpenCloud, but in the portfolio as a whole. This will be OpenCloud focused, but more than happy to share kind of the broader portfolio for anybody that has any questions. So before we dive in, I've got two of our extremely talented engineers on the call with me. I've got Tyler Vercady, virtualization architect. He's going to demo OpenCloud Desktop as a Service. And then I've got David Knuth, DevOps engineer, and he is going to demo our replication technology that we've been working on in partnership with OpenText Carbonite. And then the third thing that we're going to wrap up with is just kind of a preview of the GPU as a service. And that's going to actually be a video that we play that was brought to us by Shape Blue, one of our vendor partners as well. They're sponsoring and kind of showcasing the GPU functionality that's coming in Apache Cloud Stack. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know we've got a fairly kind of short time frame here, but I want to start with kind of my philosophy, and this is not necessarily US Signal as a whole, though it aligns very well. But I personally, when I stepped into this role, coming from kind of the hyperscaler world, right, where they've got a lot of the cloud native capabilities. They have the ability to do VMs, but we run into kind of all kinds of problems with that. I started to look at OpenCloud and what US Signal was bringing to market there, and got really excited. And then Nutanix, now they play into that, and really started to take this approach of, we're going to develop products that support right workload, right place mindset. As we evaluate what do we bring to market, as the R&D team is working on these new technologies, this is really the mindset that we want to approach everything from. And so, OpenCloud really plays well into that strategy of right workload, right place. We can carve workloads off to go into the hyperscalers. We can carve workloads off to go into Nutanix. But really, the idea when you work with US Signal, I want it to be, and this holds true, I think, really across the board. We're going to make sure we're strategically placing these applications, these workloads, to support your organization, both operationally, cost effective, all things that go into running a smooth IT department. So keep that in mind as we start to move through our kind of our demos here. But the very first one that we're going to start with is our OpenCloud Desktop as a Service. And why is this important, right? So as an organization, we want to have control around our desktops, around our environment. And so a VDI environment or a desktop as a service environment really allows, for some key benefits within our organization. We get the enhanced security and compliance. And I think especially when you tie that with a private cloud environment like OpenCloud, where if you want to see the servers that your data lives on, let's schedule a tour. We'll walk you through the data center. You're going to get the operational agility and scalability, and you'll see that here in Tyler's demo in a second. And then, really within OpenCloud, you're going to get cost management benefits. You're going to have, expected cost. You're going to get the benefits of the infrastructure running in OpenCloud. So we're going to jump over now to our DAS demo. And if you could transfer to Tyler, he's going to share his screen, and we're going to walk through um, desktop as a service within OpenCloud. Tyler, all you.
Excellent. You should hopefully be able to see my screen here.
Yep, I'm seeing it.
Excellent. So first, just to get started, I've got a couple of different tenants set up here within OpenCloud. And before I actually show you any of the DAS specific things, we can just quick take a look at the infrastructure components here for this specific tenant. So I've got the domain controller, an application server. This is actually the VM that was used to build the golden image for the session hosts. And then this is the one session host that I actually have running for this tenant. So if we log into the management portal here and we go over to our servers and we'll switch to this tenant. Here we go. So this is the actual configuration for the session hosts based on that template. And I have this configured so that it requires a minimum of one available session at any time. And this specific template is configured to host 2 users concurrently. So as soon as I have 2 user sessions active on a host, it will automatically provision another one, which obviously is a very low session count, but just for the sake of being able to demo the scaling, that works pretty well. So if we go over here to look at the sessions, I have one user that's connected. So if we jump in here and initiate a session, so here we are inside that virtual desktop, and we will log in to OpenCloud as that tenant here. We can keep an eye on those hosts. So if we go under our instances and then say we're in here and we want that that second user to connect here, and we want to look at virtual applications. So start that up here. If I switch back, you'll see it's actually working on provisioning that additional session host. That'll take just a minute here, but it is that simple as far as scaling, and that'll initiate obviously the connectivity of that host to the OpenCloud DAS management portal, and it will join the AD domain. And once that's all up and running, it'll begin to accept sessions. That scaling obviously is very important, just to tune that correctly, so you have users that, as things start to scale up at the beginning of the workday, you don't have users waiting, a few minutes for a session. You can tune that and give yourself enough runway to allow everybody to get everything done that they need to. So yeah, now if we log in here.
Well, and I know the scaling is I don't think this is going to be a shock to anybody, but great for cost management, right? I know kind of the 2 major platforms that we see when it comes to virtual desktop right now are Azure Virtual Desktop, and then we're having just a ton of interest on OpenCloud Desktop as a Service. And the AVD, right? The scaling that they have has always been kind of the reason people go with that, and you're able to provision during work hour, exactly what you showed here. Well, now, one of the conversations that I have had a ton is, hey, we really like the ease of it, but we do wish we could, put it in a private cloud environment. Now we have that option.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, this platform truly is multi-tenant. So you can have, an MSP that has multiple customers that they manage in OpenCloud, even across multiple tenants. And you can use this platform to orchestrate and connect all of those. So your tenants will still have all of their data and everything separately, and they still own that, but the management, some of the management components can be shared, or you can deploy it easily per tenant as well.
Perfect.
And yeah, so if we look at the groups here, this tenant is Active Directory integrated. So if we look at the user group here, so we've got published applications and published server groups for this. So if we go into the applications, you can see that these applications are actually delivered to the 80 the 80 users in that group. So say we wanted to add teams to this, for example, all we do is click that button, add it, and then if we log out of this one here a second, we jump right back in, we will see teams available. And that will show up both for the remote apps as well as it'll show up on the session as an icon on the desktop. It's very, very simple to get that up and running. You can control access via groups. You can assign applications to specific users if you want, and that gives you a way to also track. You can track utilization of different licenses, which is very handy for anything that has like a per seat user license associated with it. That makes it very, very easy to track that. Very common also with many line of business applications. But yeah, it's going to take a second there. But as I had mentioned, with being able to publish apps to groups, you can do the same thing with server groups as well. This specific tenant is only configured to use session hosts based on that template. You can also configure it to use, be used in such a way that you have a dedicated host per user, which is handy if you've got especially something that maybe is compute or graphics intensive, something like a SolidWorks or AutoCAD or something like that. There's my application there. But you can easily dedicate those resources to a user and not have to worry about one power hungry user stepping on somebody else's toes. But yeah, it's very very versatile that way. Yeah, I mean it's
very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think that kind of covers the core functionality of it. So yeah, Taylor, unless there's anything else you can think of that you'd like to add to that.
I don't, but we do have a question that came in. One of our attendees asked, can you run Windows 11 multi-user or just server OS with OpenCloud DAS?
Yeah, so the way that it is right now, it has to be a server Windows Server OS just because of Windows licensing, at least as far as in the multi-tenant OpenCloud infrastructure that we have today.
Yep. So if I'm understanding that right, if we did single tenant OpenCloud or something like that, then we could leverage the Windows 11 multi-user.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's just the way in which our current OpenCloud clusters are licensed for Windows. It does not support desktop OS licensing, but yeah, absolutely. If you've got Windows desktop licensing provided, either retail or you get it through O365 in a single tenant deployment, absolutely you can use the desktop OS.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions out there? Otherwise, Tyler, I want to thank you for hopping on and doing the demo. I'll have you hang
Yeah.
out for a minute, and then let's see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not seeing any additional questions. So now we're going to, let me see, share my screen again. Laura, can I share my screen real quick? Take presenter back, and then we're going to bounce you back to David here in a moment. So, all right. So that was our desktop as a service demo. It's, gaining all kinds of traction in the market. We're very excited about that. Next, we're going to talk about our replication demo, and this is our sync safe, as it's named now. With the R&D team, right? Everything's in flight, but with our replication demo, and so just a few key points, right? And I don't know that we really need to hammer home why replication is important. I think we all kind of understand. Hey, we want to have our continuous data protection, but specifically around what we're exploring to bring to market, some very kind of exciting opportunities by partnering with OpenText and the Carbonite platform. You get simplified management, and then also, very exciting that we can do cross-platform protection. And so, what originally started out as, hey, how do we replicate within the OpenCloud environment, has turned into, we're really starting to explore how can we replicate, from any location to any location. And again, this is R&D, right? So we're exploring right now, but in terms of replication within OpenCloud, we're not launched yet, but we're getting there. We're very close. So excited about what's to come, and I'm excited for what David is about to showcase to everyone. So, Laura, I'm going to stop sharing, and if I can have you transfer presenter mode to David, and then David, we'll have you share your screen. Okay.
Give me just a second. I just need to get myself set up here.
Awesome.
My computer and I are having a bit of an argument, so.
It's always when you're live in front of an audience, isn't it?
Yep.
That's all right.
All right. All right. Okay, so you got to be kidding me. Seriously? I had this all set up, and you decided to.
Did you get hit with the timeout?
Yeah. Oh well.
Hey, you know what? In a moment of turning this into a positive, right? OpenCloud does have reasonable timeout policies. So if you leave your screen open, it's going to limit, what somebody can do if they were to get your laptop. So.
Alrighty. So in this example, we are using the Carbonite OpenText platform, which we are looking at as one of our options for doing replication. And as of right now, I have things set up so that I have two servers configured, one being my demonstration machine, which is in place of being an app server, and the other being my target VM, so a target for my system to be replicated. And what I've got set up right now is I have a full system state replication being performed on that source to target. So what happens is the system is taking the entire system state of the source, from its IP address to its name, the services and server features, and so on, all the configuration details, and it's replicating it across to my target along with all of the data that's on the machine. And with that being protected, it is doing a real-time replication. Plus, as part of this, I have it set up so that every 4 hours it creates a snapshot of that on the target. So I have a VSS replica ready to go. Now, with this, should I have a problem or a need to spin up a replacement for my original server. Since I have this all set up, I can simply come in here to our replication console, select the server, and select where I want to perform the snapshot. So do I want to use the original, do I want to use an earlier snapshot, or do I want to use the current? Now note, if I'm doing this as to the current, it's going to take the state that's been replicated plus any additional data that has been replicated from the source to the target, but has not yet been written to the target, and send that down the wire. And from there, I simply have to click failover, and the system will initiate the failover where it will go in on the target machine. It will write that server system configuration onto the target VM, bring it and give it the name to match the original server, et cetera, et cetera. And once it's back up and running, it will be a complete failover identical to my source.
Awesome. Perfect. And, I know we've had conversations and there's a lot of variables that can go into this. But what would you say you've been seeing as kind of a time to replicate everything over before you can be up and live?
That's going to be entirely dependent on the network speed and the amount of data that's on the source machine.
Yep.
For example, because I'm doing all internal replication from one VM to another, it's doing it at full internal replication speeds, which is 10 gigabit per second, and it's not replicating more than about 10 gig of data, so that's done in a few minutes.
Perfect.
And it does have the ability, when it's actually doing the replication, you can actually go in and monitor it in real time to see what kind of bandwidth it's getting. So
Are you able to see that? Do you have this set up so that you could show that real quick, or
no,
is that?
it would have to actively be replicating in order for me to show that.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Nope, that makes sense. No, I know this is one that we're really excited to bring, the capabilities to OpenCloud. While it's not, a full kind of DR in the traditional sense, right? It really starts, I think, to kind of change the conversation, and this is a conversation we're having a lot of what does a true DR strategy in today's day and age look like for an organization? I think if you talk to anybody at US Signal, the last time, we've got facilities right outside the window. So, if you talk to anybody at US Signal, I think the last time that we've had customers that had true, like, push the red button DR failovers is pretty rare, right? Because uh, a lot of the issues that organizations run into tend to be more cyber, right? I think cyber attacks, whether it's ransomware or whatever. Well, I hope we never have, none of our customers or anybody ever has to face that, right? The reality is that they're aggressive and their tactics are changing all the time. And so if something happens, you don't necessarily want to do the major, one click fail everything over, right? We want to be strategic in, making sure that we've isolated workloads, and backups become a major conversation, a major part of the conversation. And then this capability where, hey, we can, isolate and roll over single VMs and replicate that way, really become powerful in how we manage our environment. So, again, this product is not brought to market yet. We're very close. We're working very close with our product team, our security team, just to make sure that it checks every box for the quality that you expect US Signal to bring to market. But very excited about really getting this kind of in the hands of our customers and integrated into the OpenCloud environment. So, David, anything to add before we kind of step through, move on to GPUs as a service?
Well, the only thing I would add with this product is it is one of the many tools that we are looking at that enable functionality beyond full system replication, because in this day and age, you know, you have different applications already out there that are embracing the notion of thin of thin imaging, thin replication, and thin high availability, such as SQL DAGs and distributed file systems and that sort of thing. And so this tool, unlike a lot of traditional DR tools, really does add a dimension in that it doesn't just have to be configured to do a full system state replication. It can be used to also replicate data sets specifically, so files and folders, to allow for always on prepared and configured systems that already have all the software and everything in place, that are already online and ready to go, to effectively just get updated data sets pushed over to them, and they can just spin up automatically that way, as opposed to going through an entire server lift and shift. So it moves away from that traditional DRAS concept that has downsides in terms of how far back are my checkpoints, how far back, or what do I do in order to make sure that the system is clean and happy and in like a ransomware event, and really makes it so that you can have true hot spare systems already ready to go with data replication in cases where the vendor does not already offer that.
Perfect. No, that's a great addition to add. Perfect. And I don't see any questions in the chat, so we'll go ahead and move on. Laura, if I can take presenter back. David, thank you for sharing that demo with us. Again, very excited about these capabilities, and Tyler as well for the DAS demo. You both are amazing, engineers, great contributors to the team. We're excited to have you both, and excited about what else we'll bring to market moving forward. So. So that was our Sync Safe replication demo. And next, and this one may be a little rocky, so I apologize in how it presents, but we'll try and do our best here. But next, I want to showcase GPU support within Cloud Stack. And you may see the word Cloud Stack and go, "Hey, I thought we were talking about OpenCloud." For those that don't know, here at US Signal, we are huge proponents of open source technology, and a part of that, as we were, kind of building out, as you've probably heard throughout the day, our answer to the Broadcom shakeup, and we were really looking at, kind of being in control of our destiny, right? The Apache Cloud Stack, that virtualization or the cloud orchestration layer, really stood out as a platform that could help us achieve those goals. And so it is an Apache Foundation project, fully supported. It has great community support. It is used by monster organizations out there, and so that is the foundation of OpenCloud. Now, with that, right, and I think I heard it earlier, we're not necessarily a development shop. We don't have a ton of software developers. But we want to contribute back into the open source community, and in partnering with Shape Blue, who's one of the probably the main active maintainer of Cloud Stack and provides wonderful support, right? We really want to, if we're not going to contribute developers, we're going to contribute dollars. And so GPU support within Cloud Stack was really kind of our first foray into how do we provide, how do we contribute back into the open source world as best we can. And so we're really excited about just GPU support in the Cloud Stack project, and it's going to be available to anybody that chooses to leverage that platform. But why is GPU support in a cloud environment important in today's day and age, right? And just saying that out loud, right, it probably makes you chuckle because for the last 3 years, it's AI everything, right? But it's not just AI for why we need that. So, key workloads, right? Especially we just saw the desktop as a service. If you've got customers or if you as an organization are doing, super graphic intensive workloads within your VDI, right? If you're doing, super heavy CAD or anything like that, GPUs are really allow you to do that efficiently within the AI space, right? Training, that's kind of the big thing right now. But as that workload shifts to inference, right, and actually interacting, GPUs become, kind of the backbone of that. And then high performance computing, simulation environments rely super heavily on GPUs. And so, what I'm about to show again is actually going to be a video from the Shape Blue Apache Cloud Stack 4.21 release webinar that was, I think it was last Monday, a week ago, that they gave it. And it's a high level demo of Cloud Stack, not of OpenCloud, but will be getting launched. So we've got GPUs in our labs that we've been testing. We're very excited now with the OpenCloud platform. As soon as 4.21 releases, which should be any day, GPUs will be released in technical preview. So we'll be able to, get it in the platform. We're going to get it in the lab, really, kind of work through any of the kinks that pop up with Shape Blue. And then in the 4.22 release, we should be good to go live with production workloads of GPU support. And kind of the timeline that I'm hearing is Q4 of this year. So we're right around the corner. It's very high on the priority list. We're really excited about bringing this to market. So we'll move to the GPU as a service demo. And like I said, we'll see kind of how this shares out. So let me share my screen. And we're going to go to, let's see. Okay, are you able to see kind of the YouTube screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so I've got sound off, so I will be the one to kind of narrate this, but I will post this link in the chat so that you can go watch what's coming yourself. There's also a really exciting extension framework that we're going to leverage heavily here at US Signal that's getting released in 4.21. But if you want to check out for yourself, go ahead. So, again, kind of hitting on what I had said, right? Why are GPUs important? Why do we want to have them as a first-class resource? You can see the use cases that are listed out, right? It's your VDI, it's your AI, high performance, gaming, streaming, all that stuff. And so in today's day and age, as a cloud platform, to really, make sure not even to stand out like maybe it was 5 or 10 years ago, but to really be keeping up, with where the industry is going, it's now more important than ever. GPU is a first-class resource within Cloud Stack, right? Really exciting because it's vendor agnostic. And so NVIDIA, really is, the elephant in the room, right? Everyone's familiar with them. But AMD and all these other GPU providers that are really starting to come to market, we're going to be able to support those. And so we're not going to be tied just to NVIDIA, even though we will have those. But it's going to allow us to really make sure that we have a wide selection of GPU support depending on your needs. Native KVM GPU management is really exciting because KVM is the underlying hypervisor that OpenCloud is built on. So that's huge that's built in. And then, we get really into kind of the technical management components, but we have the ability to auto discover GPUs and virtual GPUs. We can support pass-through with the virtual GPUs. And then and this one, again, kind of gets more into the, being the provider. But within OpenCloud and Cloud Stack, all of our compute options are listed as offerings. So we're able to, again, bring those to you as a GPU backed compute sizing for your instance creation. And then there's some additional just kind of management components that are going to make bringing these to market easier. So if we look here, we've got the KVM host GPU configuration, we've got pass through, we've got the virtual GPU, and so we even have a couple different options that we can bring to our customers, as you're looking to roll out your workloads. And so we'll kind of skip through right to the demo. And when I click play, so you're going to see it's going to the interface may look familiar, but not a perfect replication. Again, that's because this is a demo of the Cloud Stack platform, not necessarily the OpenCloud platform that we build off of. So we'll jump over, and you can kind of see initially what we're looking at here on our host are the GPUs. And so we've got our GPU devices. You can see we've got one that's a pass-through, and then we've got 8 that are broken up as virtual CPUs. And then with discovering those profiles, we're able to go through, click discover, and then run those jobs, and it goes and finds additional profiles. And so this is, again, more from a management perspective, but it's going to allow us to quickly and easily bring these capabilities to our customers. So you can see here, as you look through the compute offerings that are available, again, we're able to, quickly and easily scale up what type of GPU cards and profiles and everything else that we want to provide as compute offerings. And then if we kind of jump ahead a little bit, if we go into an instance and we look at, this is a VDI workload instance, we actually can go through, monitor and look at the GPUs. We're able to see some information about that that is available to the instance. You can see what the card is, how much is allocated, how much you're using. If we continue on, some really exciting stuff as we get into actually demoing and testing this. So you'll be able to see, within your, metrics for tracking usage, you'll be able to actually track GPU usage and see limits. And this is going to be really big for the service provider side. If you have customers yourself and you want to allocate GPU limits to those customers, you can leverage subdomains and do that. As we continue now, they kind of show a demo here of actually running the instance and showing the GPU capabilities. So let's see. Should load here in a second. You're able to see the GPU available on the instance, and then they actually go into the instance and run a stress test. So now you're able to see, and I don't know how clear this is coming across just because I'm streaming a video, but as you watch the video, and they do the stress test, you can see, GPU capabilities and how that tracks. So we're really excited about what's coming within the GPU capabilities that are going to allow us to support kind of these workloads across AI, across super heavy VDI usage. It's really exciting times. So those are kind of the three major demos that we really wanted to show. I've got a slide that just kind of recaps first, but I know there were some questions that popped in, and I think the one that I want to go back to, there was a question related to desktop as a service. So Tyler, how are user profiles handled within OpenCloud DAS?
Yeah, so good question. It depends on what the backend authentication is. So for example, typically with Active Directory, it's expected to have some kind of a file server, whether that's something that that you stand up on your own or you use the built-in functionality. But it's if you provide your own, it's expected to be something like FSLogix or something equivalent. So you have that persistent profile across session hosts. The OpenCloud DAS platform itself, with internal authentication, it will actually manage those user profiles for you, and they are stored on the file server component, which is part of every OpenCloud DAS deployment.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see, Laura, do we have any other questions that maybe came in that I'm not seeing in the chat, or?
The only one was about earlier, what are safe syncs data replication capabilities? But you may have addressed that.
Yeah. David, is there anything that you want to add? It was kind of a more general question. What are the sync safe data replication capabilities? I think we hit on it pretty well. Curious if there's anything else additional you want to add.
No, it's a pretty versatile application that does offer. It's one of the utilities out there that brings to play or brings to bear the ability to have the same kind of an availability group type replica cluster of systems, as well as being able to replicate the entire state of a VM so that you have something pre-staged if that's the way you want to go.
Yeah.
Those are the biggest benefits, and it really does fit neatly into a larger strategy of leveraging not just vendor type redundancies that we already are used to with SQL, DFS, DNS availability groups, that kind of, and Active Directory replication and that sort of thing, but it brings that to a much wider audience and really does get us away from the traditional notion of an all or nothing monolithic DRaaS type scenario, so that you can have a much more redundant and high availability type of infrastructure that's ready to go and is kept more current than just relying entirely on backups the same way as you would rely on your average, DR product.
Perfect. Okay. I don't think we've got any other questions, so we'll go ahead and kind of cover our recap real quick. And so this is a recap again of features that we are actively either rolling out, have rolled out, are rolling out soon, or on the roadmap, right? So we've talked about desktop as a service, and Tyler showed the capabilities of that, very powerful, VDI platform. And then we went into, the replication capabilities that are going to be available within OpenCloud, and David did a great job of demoing that. The GPU as a service, I know we're really excited, working with Shape Blue to bring that, to life through the open source project, and then get our hands on it and bring it as a feature available within OpenCloud. And then, just some things that are in early exploration. So I don't want to commit to any timelines or anything like that, but stuff that we are actively starting to explore. Container support, right? We heard in Steven's talk with microservices, Docker, Podman, the different container technologies. We want to make sure we can support, Kubernetes deployments and go where a lot of these deployments have gone. Private LLM deployments. You may have seen a LinkedIn post if we're connected. If not, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. But where we deployed open source, the GPT open source model, it was CPU only mode, right? Because we don't have the GPUs available within OpenCloud yet, but we've automated out the deployments of that. So once those are live, that'll be easy. We are actively in talks and exploring one-click app deploy. So if you know of the Azure or the AWS marketplaces, right, we want to get to a point where we can actively support third-party apps being one-click deployed into OpenCloud. Manage load balancers, manage app gateways, right? These services that are cloud native, that certain workloads you've come to expect to have these features be available. We're actively working to make sure that we move from just being a traditional IaaS platform to really a full featured cloud environment that supports whatever workloads you want to bring our way. So very excited about what's on the roadmap. I know I am very excited in my new role. Like I said, I get to work with these incredibly talented engineers, Tyler and David and the rest of the team, and so we are very ecstatic about what is coming. I'm trying to switch up my words because I keep saying excited a lot. That really is kind of a wrap up of the R&D. We're about to shift in, to kind of general day questions. So very much want to thank everybody for the time spent listening to what's on the roadmap, but also, for the entire day summit. You can see we've got some of the other people that have presented throughout the day hopping back on. So we're going to move into kind of more of a general Q&A based on questions and topics that people asked as they filled out the registration. So
Hey, Taylor,
again, yep, go ahead.
we did have one more question come in. If you want to address that real quick before we jump off of that topic.
Yeah, apologies. I
The question is, in the demo, I saw the web used to access DAS. Will the user have the ability to use the traditional RDP client?
It's not the actual RDP client. There is an enterprise client though that is recommended that functions in a similar way. But yeah, it is available for Linux and Windows and Mac OS as well as mobile devices.
Perfect. So not necessarily the RDP client, but
it provides a much better experience as well than the traditional RDP client that's built into Windows or through the Windows app or whatever they call it on Mac OS now for RDP.
Yeah,
it's much better. Provides a much better experience both graphically and with device pass through and things of that nature as well.
Perfect.
And one thing I did want to add quick as well, just looking at looking at the recap, is I get a lot of questions on GPUs when going through some of the DAS stuff, and once we get to the point, obviously, where we have GPUs as a service available in OpenCloud, the configuration of those session hosts to support vGPUs is incredibly simple. It actually is. It is enabled by default in OpenCloud DAS. It's you basically, the change is how you consume them. You change the service offering, and you just configure your golden image to support those, and you're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tyler. Just to round out the R&D conversation, so I just posted in the chat. I don't know if you're able to see that. I sent it only to the organizers. Give me 1 second. I'm going to send it to everybody, or Laura, if you can send it to everybody. It's my email and my LinkedIn, and I want. Well, actually, Laura, doesn't look like I have the option. Can you share that with everybody? If
Sure
you
can.
have, things that you're interested in exploring, if you've got, topics, or you're just curious, my inbox is always open. Please reach out. I'm happy to discuss, and see if you can't bring us something that maybe ultimately affects our product roadmap. We love to hear from customers and hear the feedback. So, okay.
We did have one more question come in, Taylor.
Yep.
Just to keep it going. Keep it going. For desktop as a service, for the user profiles, would you be able to keep different companies separate via their own AD, or would they all be centrally stored?
Yeah, you absolutely can separate those. You can have also a mix. If you have a few smaller customers, say, that may not have their own Active Directory environment, you can have a tenant defined with local authentication and have those profiles stored locally. And then you can also have separate AD accounts or AD environments, for different tenants. You can have Open LDAP mixed in there as well. So yeah, it's very, very flexible, and you definitely can separate things out. So no tenants are sharing even the same file servers that way.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I think for the sake of time, we're probably going to move into the next Q&A. But if anybody has any questions related to any of this, you have my email. Please don't hesitate to reach out to your account team. We're more than happy to kind of take the conversation offline. So again, kind of moving into the next phase, kind of our day one Q&A wrap up. So we asked, what questions or challenges about your cloud journey would you like the presenters to address? And those really fell into 5 categories, right? The first one being cloud fit and cost strategy, migration challenges, methodology, differentiation and competitive positioning, security, compliance, and risk, and then services of interest, DAS, DRAS, BAS, all of that. And so, we've brought back a number of people, like I said, that presented today. We've got John White, we've got David, Pat, David, and, kind of collectively, we're going to go through, the overall topics and kind of give people the opportunity to share their thoughts, answer questions that may pop up, and really just kind of take the last 23 minutes or so to kind of round out any of those questions. So, the very first category, cloud fit and cost strategy, kind of the idea there, right? How do you fit the cloud into our environment in the right place? What are recommendations for better visibility, cost, and growth? How can companies, keep up with soaring cloud cost, right? That's a conversation that we all have every single day. And then what are the levers of efficiency for, cloud computing? Pat, I know, working with the SAs, field CTO, like this is the conversation that you're having every day. What are your kind of initial thoughts if you're talking to somebody that's curious about, cloud fit and cost strategy?
Yep. So, it actually aligns very well with the first part of the content that was shared today. So, David covered right cloud for the right workload, right? So, I think that's part of the challenge, is trying to identify where a workload should live. We've got, pseudo workshops that we can kind of run customers through, that focus on breaking down a workload and mapping it, to an environment based on performance, cost, security, and compliance, and resiliency needs as well. So that's one thing that comes to mind. When we look at levers of efficiency for cloud computing, Jim explained, in the presentation earlier, just around that performance to price ratio. That's huge, right? So, a lot of the costs that you see, also a lot of the cost analysis you see in the marketplace doesn't take into account, any standardization for performance. And so when you move a workload into those environments, you may get more poor performance than what you did in the previous environment, and it may, require you to ratchet up compute, maybe faster storage, and so that can result in rising costs. So I think just understanding that price to performance ratio, understanding, the right cloud for your workloads, are 2 things that, we covered earlier today that directly kind of relate to that question.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, slam hyperscalers by any means, right? They are an amazing platform when you put the right workloads there. But I think we all have personally or have heard from customers cloud horror stories where they moved up there and it was going to be X and now it's 2 or 3X, right? And we didn't put the controls in place, and a junior developer accidentally kicked off a job that we now have a $50,000 cloud bill that we didn't budget for, right? So, it's definitely important that you have a very clear, real understanding of what it means to go to the hyperscalers, which again are, perfect for the right scenarios, but it's not necessarily a one size fits all by any means.
I think on
Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, Rob Strechay had a great slide in his keynote this morning talking about like the considerations. And so, when you start to look at, he listed out application locality. So who's the customer? Is this internal? Does this have to be in a warehouse somewhere? Is this a worldwide thing? Is latency a concern? You have to walk through that. What's the profile? Where does the app get the data? Is it getting it from a conveyor belt living in my factory, or is it getting from people online that's pulling data, scraping data from wherever it is? What kind of app is it? Is it a dog, cat, where it's a named thing and you have to care and feed for it and you love it? Or is it an ephemeral thing where it's a scale out, almost a modern microservices application? What regulations do you have to deal with? Do you have to maintain compliance for state, local, federal? Do you have sovereignty issues inside of Europe? I mean, what are your challenges there? And then the cost side of it. Do you want to be an OpEx shop or do you want to be a CapEx shop? Do you want to be a mix of both? I mean, so you have to run through, everything that you're trying to figure out with your cloud fit. You have to run it through that checklist essentially that he built and showed us, because all of those things matter. And his point on that slide, I think it was critical, was your only wrong strategy is to not having a choice in cloud. So, the only thing you could do wrong there is to say, okay, it's a one size fits all. And I think as technologists, we always, kind of do that. And you're hearing this with AI right now. It's like, oh, our jobs are gone because of AI. Well, that's not the case. It's how you can use AI to make your job better. That's what's going to go and make you, look like a better employer or employee than somebody else in your peer group. And so we have to get rid of that fixed focus onto a one solution thing and make sure that we're, multimodal in our strategy.
Perfect. For the sake of time, I'm going to move on to category number 2, migration challenges and methodology, right? So hot topic has been for a while now, the transition away from VMware, right? We all know people living through it. I mean, that is OpenCloud is actively moving people away from that. But as you dive into that, right, it's not enough just to move away from VMware. The migration of legacy apps and databases. I think we've all seen these applications that we're scared to touch, right? So how do we ensure performance? Moving from single server architectures to modern workloads, right? Getting into that microservices conversation, and then maybe a little more specific, but EDU institutions and complexity of moving to the cloud. Diving into those migration challenges, David would really like to throw it over to you and kind of talk through, as you're talking through migrations with organizations, both large and small, what are you taking into account?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it really comes down to honestly category one, right, which is kind of right cloud, right workload, right workload, right cloud. So we take a lot of time, diving deep. Pat's team specifically and our sales team doing a pretty in-depth discovery with customers, right, for that reason, because you don't want to overlook the ability to potentially rebuild or refactor, right? Just doing a lift and shift migration into another cloud platform is probably not the way to do it, right? So there are some applications that work really well doing that, right? But let's say you have a performance problem that is app based, moving that to another cloud does nothing but cost you money in another cloud, right? You're not fixing a performance issue by moving it to another cloud inherently, right? So I think that is a big misconception that I face a lot, or that I hear a lot from customers, like, oh, moving this to, a cloud is going to solve all the problems, right? Not the case if your application has really poorly designed SQL, right? Anywhere you put it, it's going to eat all the memory you give it. That's what SQL does, right? So just moving it to another cloud platform isn't going to do anything for you. So taking a really in-depth look and taking time doing the discovery with whoever you're working with, or doing it for yourself, right? Really understanding your workloads, really understanding the requirements that those workloads, those applications, those database servers actually have versus what they've always had, right? So just because it is the way that it's always been doesn't mean that you need to replicate that in a different cloud, or with US Signal, or in Nutanix, or in OpenCloud.
It's like
Taking
the sunk cost fallacy, right?
yeah, if you're gonna spend time and do it right, anything worth doing is worth doing right, right? You hear that all the time, or if you don't hear it, you heard it for the first time today, right? Take your time, understand the workloads, understand the requirements of those workloads, and where they land becomes a really easy math problem, right? So I love numbers. Everything's a math problem on my side of the house. So it becomes a really easy math problem.
Awesome. David, you're talking to, customers all the time from a product standpoint. What are you hearing, in kind of the strategy related to migration? And again, not necessarily away from, kind of the Broadcom VMware. We all know where that, stands, but customers that are worried about, moving legacy apps or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think to be clear, I don't want to say a majority, but I'm going to say a majority of our customers are probably running what may be considered legacy apps and databases. So it's something that we've had a lot of experience with over the years. And, you'll hear this tomorrow from NetSource One, who's a customer of ours that we're going to bring on and talk through their journey from VMware to OpenCloud. They're actually seeing better performance in the legacy apps and databases front, not worse performance. So in that very specific and narrow case, like performance was actually improved and better. And there may be other reasons for that. But overall, the impression from their customers is like, yeah, this has been better. So, we have had lots of customers move over to the OpenCloud platform, very few challenges around legacy app and database performance.
Awesome. We'll continue on to category 3. So differentiation and
Real quick,
competitive.
I want one last word there.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, John.
So I'll talk about this a little bit tomorrow, but I mean, there's a lot of FUD out there on migration, and I've been in the space for too long now, almost 2 decades. And migration has been a constant inside of this, whether you're going to the cloud or from the cloud or from on premises to another. We've been moving and migrating stuff forever, and that is not all of a sudden difficult. There's a lot of analysts out there that are putting fear out there that all of a sudden migration is hard. Migration is not hard. It's challenging, but that's different than hard. It's challenging because you have to understand and you have to make sure that it's like if you're moving your house. Moving a house is not hard. Making sure your attic is organized, making sure you've dropped off the stuff at Goodwill, and you're generally cleaned up around your house. That's what it takes. And so if you're keeping a tidy application set, server set, and everything, it's not challenging to move. And actually, I would say that it's actually gotten a lot easier. I mean, there's tools today that you can literally click a button, it starts replicating all your data, i.e. that sync safe that David was just walking through. Now you just flip a button and there you go. Or you can back it up into another platform and then restore it into another platform. And I think, how to validate my point is a lot different than, me just saying it. Look at the growth. And so when Parham was on from Nutanix, they had a 19% year over year growth in their annual recurring revenue. That is not net new workloads. That's people migrating into Nutanix, I'd say, for the big part of it. And to put that 19% into perspective, different numbers, but AWS is growing at a 17% year over year. Yes, it's a few $billion more, but still the point being is that new applications are being created, migrations are happening and occurring. It's not impossible. It's something that you can do, but make sure your house is cleaned up before you start.
Yeah, great insight. And I know the selling your house, making sure it's clean all too well right now. So, all right. Category 3, differentiation and competitive positioning, right? So, major topic if you listen to any US signal, open source versus VMware, or I would say, more broadly, kind of the open source versus closed source, Broadcom licensing concerns, which is a hot topic. Can I run the same system in the cloud and on premises? And then when do you use IaaS versus PaaS? Just so everybody's aware that's listening, IaaS, infrastructure as a service, PaaS is platform as a service, right? We abstract out the operating system. So, David, I think I want to throw this one back over to you real quick as you're talking to people and, the differentiation, right? The idea of open source versus, I'm going to go with more of the general closed source. Why did we go with open source? And then, and I think that plays into the licensing concerns scenario.
Yeah. So, the interesting part is, we launched OpenCloud back in September of 2024, so we're coming up right on a year. And we started building it in the spring of 2024, but we actually started talking about what wasn't OpenCloud then, but became OpenCloud back even before everything happened with Broadcom. And the reason we were having that conversation was not that we were like extremely dissatisfied with VMware, but it's that we viewed VMware and other commercial approaches as more virtualization as a service called cloud than what we've come to know as true cloud, which I think is what the Azures and the AWSs, et cetera, of the world have done extremely well. And so if you've been on the sessions today, I think what you've seen demonstrated is something like OpenCloud based on open source tools. I think rides that line really well between the flexibility you get with the public cloud providers and the ability to go and provision resources on the fly. In the VMware world, you had to call your salesperson or send an email to the help desk if you needed more RAM or storage, right, beyond what was already allocated to you. That's gone now. We also have full API capabilities in OpenCloud where infrastructure as code is an absolute possibility. And that's not just a possibility; you could do it today. But the flip side is you still have people that you can call if you need help. You still know where your data resides. You have that level of sort of control that I think is pretty interesting and appealing. And I think you've also seen today that in a very short period of time, we've had the opportunity to start adding things on top of this foundation of OpenCloud, like DAS, like SyncSafe, like GPU as a service, in really quick fashion. I think it's fair to say that same effort and outcome wouldn't have been possible had we went another route.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great choice or a great comment. And when it comes to open source, right? There's no hypervisor tax necessarily, right? So there's a lot more consistency in the world where even if the project, right, and you see this in open source projects all the time, decides to go a different direction for whatever reason, you can just fork the project and continue on with that path, right? So I think there's a lot more control your destiny
For sure.
with the open source world versus being tied at the hands by a Broadcom, right? I mean that's what we're referring to. So
yeah, and like if you look at why did we do that? I mean, for us, obviously we're providing services to our end customers. In some cases, those people are providing services to their customers, and so for us to be able to pull out a variable that is always changing and sometimes unknown is I think huge in terms of how we interact with our customers and how our customers interact with us. I mean, it's gonna make our long-term relationships, I think, so much better.
Absolutely. And then, running the same system in the cloud versus on-prem, that's a little more tactical. We probably won't dive super into that one. When it comes to OpenCloud, we are, rolling out OpenCloud Anywhere. I don't know if that's the formal name, but that's what I keep calling it, right? So we will be able to, if you want to, your service provider, you're looking to, kind of replace that VMware CSP program, right? We've got options there. And then when to use IaaS versus PaaS. I'm actually not going to address that one today because I have a talk tomorrow that really kind of dives into that. So a little bit of a teaser, come to that. So excited to dive into that. So we'll move into kind of category 4, security, compliance, and risk. So how do we ensure security between on-prem and cloud solutions? How do we, kind of understand general liability issues and recommendations? And then cloud security frameworks and certifications, the CMMCs, the ITARs, GDPR, all of those. Well, GDPR is data governance, but security frameworks in general. Pat, I want to throw that over to you in the conversations you're having. We've got customers in healthcare and finance in heavily regulated organization industries.
Yeah, so I mean, I think from an advisement standpoint, what it comes down to is shared responsibility, right? That's been the common theme over the years as we've looked to absorb customer workloads into our cloud solutions. Obviously, there's a base set of protocols and controls in place that we have to meet to ensure those compliancies. But there's also just working together hand in hand, right? And so that's where we've got a good demonstrated track of experience, working with customers, understanding exactly what their security and compliance requirements are, and sometimes even tailoring kind of customized programs, or cadences to make sure that they're achieving those, right? So, as a provider, you're going to be audited annually, regardless of where your workloads are. And so that's going to result in a litany of questions and interviews, typically by third party resources, and we're right there along with our customers, answering those questions. Right, David has been a part of many of those, along with myself, along with our CISO Trevor Beidel. So you really get kind of a tremendous showing from US Signal in this space, in what we've heard in comparison to other partners that customers have had for their hosting needs. So I think just in general, just pointing out that it's that shared responsibility, regardless of what compliance and security certifications we carry. There's always some customization elements, and just the idea of you can't ever settle into your seat, with a comfortable posture as it relates to security. There's always something more you can be doing, and that's really kind of how we approach it with our customers.
Absolutely. And I know we're coming up on the final, so we'll kind of hit up the last one, the last category: services of interest. Desktop as a service, DR as a service, backup as a service. There's a lot of interest in our desktop as a service and how it compares to Azure Virtual Desktop, right? And I think we've seen that from the questions we're getting. DR, what are our DRAS availability in OpenCloud without VMware? And then, questions related to, BAS, DAS, desktop, just kind of the general. David, kind of throw that one back to you to end on, and then, we'll cut over to John for final words.
Yeah, I'll sort of start at the bottom. The advantages of the as a service model. I think, and I say this from the position of a customer, and as a customer not that long ago, is really about making the choice of differentiated versus undifferentiated work internally. If one's time could be spent, in my case, in manufacturing, helping make the manufacturing line move more quickly and making us make more material, that was more advantageous than making sure the backups would run. And so that was a clear choice where it made sense to farm that out to another organization. There are certainly certain areas where that may not make sense, and I think that's very dependent on the organization. But backups, desktop as a service, I think those are clearly in that area. Around DRAS availability, I think we already hit on that. That's really the sync safe option. So we're pretty excited for that to come to market. It will work obviously with all hypervisors because it's hypervisor agnostic. But certainly it will be an OpenCloud go-to, I think, for many, many customers. And then just in the DAS in comparison to AVD or Azure Virtual Desktop, we actually benchmarked the DAS product directly against AVD. We actually view it as probably the main competitor in the space, primarily because there's been a lot of changes happening, obviously, in Omnessa getting spun out of Broadcom, and then Frame and some others that are out there. And so we think it compares very, very directly. From a price perspective, we're a bit better. And then when you factor in running your actual application and database workloads in OpenCloud, the difference gets even larger. And in particular, for our managed service provider customers, they have the option of doing, sharing sessions or shared session hosts, and that allows them to find better unit economics as well. So we're pretty excited. And then obviously, as GPUs come in, that enables customers to start unlocking virtual desktops for doing things like AutoCAD and workloads that today aren't a possibility. So we're pretty excited about it. And again, once you layer it on top of OpenCloud, that's where I think it becomes especially compelling.
Absolutely. Let's see. Anyone, that's kind of the last category. Anyone have anything they want to add, to what David has shared, or for any of the categories that we've covered in general? I know there's a lot of moving topics. This stuff is, to John's point earlier, there's all kinds of different information out there, but as we've heard throughout the day, there are options in a post, Broadcom world. OpenCloud is a great one, but overall multi-cloud is what's going to kind of make you the most competitive. And US Signal is positioned, with our portfolio to be that multi-cloud partner. So hand it over.
One thing I
ahead.
just want to throw in there quick as well, in regards to the OpenCloud DAS, I don't believe that AVD supports Linux virtual machines for the session hosts either, which is something that OpenCloud DAS does support.
Awesome. Great feedback. Okay.
With that, I think we've had our 5 hours of fun. Thank everybody for attending. Thank everybody for presenting. Yes, we do have some great prizes that are going to be out there. But I'm really looking forward to tomorrow as well. We have another 5 hours of fun put together here. So we're going to kick off the day at 10 a.m. Eastern with Rebecca Weekly from Geico. And if you're not aware of what they have been up to for the last few years, you definitely want to tune into this one. Very big Azure customer, but they're also working on OpenStack. So I don't want to steal her thunder, but a lot of great insights there. We'll have Shape Blue here. We're going to be hearing from NetSource One, and you can talk to them about their journey to OpenCloud from VMware. I think they had a lot of great learning lessons there, and a lot of simplifications of processes on their side. Then we're going to be talking multi-cloud, and then we're going to be talking about more migration stuff. And then one that I'm really excited about, and that's a great part of the OpenCloud roadmap, is working with Ampere to bring ARM into the OpenCloud process or the OpenCloud product. So people are doing a lot of stuff there with ARM to make things a lot more efficient, performant. So we're having a great day. And then I'll be back to close up and do the keynote there. So again, thanks for everybody for attending, for presenting. Thanks for our fantastic marketing team for putting this on. I saw the comments and all the people attending and joining every one of these sessions today. So it's definitely been a hit, and we look forward to continuing that momentum tomorrow. If there's anything that pops up, I know Taylor said it a few times, but feel free to reach out to any of us over on LinkedIn or send us an email. We're happy to integrate your questions or comments or concerns into day 2 tomorrow. So with that, thank you for your time, and look forward to chatting again more tomorrow. Thank you.